quick. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. See, you don't have to have a perfect life to feel happy or grateful. You can still find joy in the small things of life that is working. Hey Royal Family, welcome to the front row with myself, Rowanna Mudley, where I talk about all things self-development. In today's video, I want to show you that you don't have to be fully healed to feel happy, because happiness isn't something you arrive at, it's something you allow. Chapter 1, Fundamental Questions for Joy While Healing. Now, pose these reflections as journal entries or prompts to yourself, and then expand on each with personal insight. What do I need to bring me joy? I realize that joy doesn't come from something new all the time. Joy resides within me. It is a feeling that makes me feel happy. It makes me feel content, and it makes me feel a rhythmic flow like no other. It often comes with reconnecting with something old, something familiar, like music, dance, laughter, memories. When you've exhausted your list in your journal entry of what is it that truly brings you joy, that doesn't have a monetary attachment to it, then ask yourself, what is holding me back from feeling happy? For me, a big part of why I wasn't feeling joy was guilt. Guilt that I wasn't doing enough, that I wasn't where I was supposed to be, that I wasn't just better. I didn't have it all figured out, and that gave me guilt. And that is also what took away all my joy. When I realized that healing isn't a checklist, it's a rhythm, I then started to figure out how I could stay happy while I was finding myself, while I was reaching my goals, while I was doing the monotonous things to get to where I wanted to be. How could I find the joy in those moments of truth, in the journey, in the steps that I was going to get there? Because if I was going to find joy in those moments, then I was going to find joy in my life predominantly. But if I kept holding myself to reaching a goal first and only then finding joy or feeling joy, I was selling myself short of the little moments of peace, the little droplets of happiness that come in between life. Next, ask yourself, what do I want to be in this world? Or who do I want to be in this world? And how do I practice being this person today? I knew that I wanted to be open-hearted, grounded. So even on the hard days, I check in with myself. How am I doing? What am I feeling? What was good about today? What are the highlights of today? What are the lowlights of today? How did I actually feel? And in my reflections and journal entries, I slowly started to realize that I had many joyous moments in the day, even though I was going through some tough times. I kept asking myself, what does the grounded version of myself need today? And I focused on the good things. When I was experiencing extreme pain and turmoil and hard times in life, I would forget to be grateful because I would just focus on the negative stuff that was going on in my life. And I had forgotten to be more grateful. And when I pivoted, I woke up in the morning and the first thing I thought about is all the things that are working in my life. And during the day, I just went about my day taking 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, and 1 day at a time. And when I reflected at my day, I realized that it was far more joyous than I actually thought it was, because our mind somehow gravitates to the negative stuff and we forget about the happy moments. I started to remember little things, like when I was walking down the road and someone smiled at me and said, "Hi, have a good day." Or if someone complimented the way I looked, or if I saw a butterfly in the sky, or if the sun was shining and it made me feel happy. Those were my moments of joy while I was healing, while I was going through it. But before I realized that, I never used to feel like my day was beautiful and constructive. I always felt like I was chasing. I felt anxious. I felt unhealed. I felt sort of like a victim. And the more I paid more attention to the negative stuff or the things that were not working, the more miserable I felt. And I didn't like that feeling. So when I pivoted and I made a choice to look at the world differently, as hard as it is, because the truth is when you're going through the most in life, it's so difficult to be positive. It's so difficult to tell yourself that it's going to be okay, because sometimes life can hit you so hard that you just don't know what to do. You feel very lost. But I continued with this practice of finding the good things, even in the little moments. And as the days progressed, I started to feel happier, because when I started to look at the things that were bringing me joy, it far outweighed the things that was making me feel stressed and the things that was making me feel down. And I think it really is just about how you look at things. You can either look at a glass half full, or you can look at a glass half empty. Similarly, I repositioned the way I looked at things. Look, I wasn't consistent, because I'm human and I go back and forth with my negative thoughts and then my positive thoughts. I'm also female, so we get hormonal, and sometimes we're just very hormonal and we're very emotional about things, and sometimes we're just happy and feeling great about things. So I understood that I also needed to embrace all of those feelings. But if I wrote down all the things that was happening in my day that was actually good, and the things that were bad, most of the time the things that were bad were very little in comparison to the things that made me happy and made me feel good about my day and how it went. So I decided to stick with that, and something within me told me that that is the way I needed to approach life. Chapter 2: Why should you be happy while healing? You manifest faster when you feel good, because your body is in a positive vibrational energy, in the same way that gratitude makes you feel good. Because when you start remembering all the things that you are grateful for, it starts making you feel happier, and thus you can manifest faster. But if you focus on the things that you are unhappy with, it doesn't make you feel joyous, and thus you manifest slower. When I allowed myself to feel joy, even if it was little sparks of joy, I saw a difference. I attracted more peace. I attracted more happiness. I attracted a different kind of energy, and that kind of energy became addictive to me. I wanted to be more present in my life, because if I continued to focus on the things that were not working in my life, then I would be miserable. But if I just focused on today or right now, what is good about this moment right here? As an example, me sitting here speaking to you, sharing something that has taught me how to feel joy while healing already gives me so much joy. The fact that I can sit here and take a moment in my life to share this with you, knowing that I could possibly help one person by just feeling joy, even though they're going through so much in life that feels tumultuous and it feels like there's no end in sight. If I can make someone feel or help someone feel a little joy while they're in a healing process, that is such a win for me. So this moment right here gives me such gratitude, and it makes my heart feel so full that I have taken a few minutes in my day just to share something that has brought me joy, and hopefully can help you feel joy in your moments of healing. I think the biggest part for me was realizing that life is happening now, and I can get so emotional about that when I think about how many years I have lost and time I have lost just dwelling on the past, or dwelling on my problems, or dwelling on things that I have no control over, or thinking about the future and all the things I want to accomplish, and not really focusing on all the things I currently have and all the things that are actually going on in my life right now in this moment in time. And so just being present and feeling all the emotions that I'm feeling now and the gratitude that I feel now is what life is about. I didn't want to be stuck in the past in regret, or always thinking about the future because I'm hustling so hard. I also wanted to enjoy life, and I realized that just the gratitude and the being present were such a big change in the right way for me to feel whole, and for me to feel like, hey, I'm actually doing this life thing and I'm actually enjoying this life thing. I didn't want to miss what was happening in my present life. And I knew that eventually I'll get to where I need to be. But if I continued to act like the person who already has the things that I want, then I will get the things that I want easier. And so I believed that today is a joyous day, and I could find the little moments of joy in every single day. as hard as some days could be. And I think on the harder days, look, the truth is, it is difficult to find joy when you're going through it on your hard days. But on those days, I just looked at the simple things. Like, I woke up this morning, I'm still alive. I ate food, I'm fed, I could have a warm bed to sleep in, etc. So just looking at the simple things helped me through the day to keep present and to enjoy the magic of being present. I also told myself that, you know what, I actually deserve to feel joy. I deserve to feel happiness. I deserve to feel good about my days because I am older than I was yesterday. And this moment right here is the youngest I will ever be. So in knowing that and knowing that I deserved it also helped me tremendously. I learned through this practice that healing doesn't mean that it is postponing my happiness. It means holding space for both peace and joy, because that's what life is about. And understanding that there is a median that you can go through where you feel, whether it's high or low energy, and feeling that contentment in between is what I was seeking more than anything else. Chapter 3, how I see joy everywhere. The thing that has helped me so much is journaling. I do it in various forms. I use a book to brain dump, and then I also have another journal where I write down my affirmations and I write down all the things I'm grateful for. And then I have another book called a Likit Japa book, which is a book that I write the name of God on repeat. For me, I use a favorite mantra that I say on repeat over and over. And I think just doing those practices every day has really transformed the way I see life. It has given me more mental clarity, especially with the brain dump. Sometimes I don't have an opportunity to actually open up a book and write because I'm mostly in front of a computer or on my phone. So then I just brain dump on a Word document that's on my Google file. So that's easy. I try to find various ways to journal. I don't have one particular way that I journal, but in whichever way I am choosing to journal, the journaling is an output and it allows me to release some of the things that I'm thinking. It also stops me from venting so much because I'm releasing it onto this book or a document that I don't need to keep talking about it because it's released. And then the affirmations and the gratitude just remind me of what I want and what I have at present. And then the Likit Japa helps me to remember God and to visualize God in a different form as opposed to me meditating or praying or praising God, etc. And if journaling is something that seems like it takes a lot of time, you don't have to do it the way I do it. You could just write one line every day. I'm grateful for everything that I have in this moment and I'm welcoming joy into my life. And if you just say that 3 times, 5 times even, that is journaling. That is something that you are doing for your mental health and you're doing for yourself to feel that joy. And eventually, with practice and consistency and the discipline, you will start feeling the words that you're saying. You will start feeling the energy that it serves and you will start feeling that joy. When I write my gratitude list, I also am very detailed with my gratitude list. Like, thank you for a hot shower today. Thank you for electricity. Thank you for Wi-Fi. Thank you for the green tree. Thank you for the sunshine that is peeking through this window right now. It's just the little things that I am trying to find more gratitude as opposed to going to the dark side. And I go there. It's not like I don't go there. And it's just when I do go there to the dark side, to the depressed side, then I must remind myself that there's so many other things that is working for me, that is working in my favor, that is good for me, that is good to me. In addition to that, I pray, I sit in silence. This is in addition to my meditation because I feel like my meditation practice is an inward, self-development, doing the inner work, giving me the clarity and the peace and the answers to the questions I may have. My prayer is to invoke something that is higher than me, something that is far more powerful than me, something that is controlling me, that has a purpose for me, that knows exactly what is needed for me, and I glorify that power. I call that God. When I glorify God, I feel the vibrational energy that God has, and I want to be immersed in that glorifying energy. I think for me, the prayer keeps me very anchored. And, there's been many moments where I also questioned the prayer. Is it actually working? Is this something that actually exists? Or are we just indoctrinated to think this is something we should do? And every time I had those thoughts, I always saw a sign or found a reason why there is a higher power. There has to be. And then when I just look at childbirth in itself, that already tells me that there is a higher power. If I look at the fact that I am breathing and moving around, that tells me that there is a force that is way bigger than I even know how to explain or understand. And because I know that there is a force that is much bigger than I am, that has created this beautiful world in all its glory, then I must submit to this force, and I must try with all my might to align my soul and the way I see things to this divine power. Because if I am more aligned or closely aligned, then that's when I'm flowing in a rhythmic flow and I can feel more joy. But I find that when I'm not closely aligned and I'm not in line with that rhythm of a higher power, then I do feel the turmoil and I do feel the misalignment and I do feel irritable. But when I'm aligned, everything's going according to plan. And even when it seems like it's not going according to plan, you know that it's the thing that you're supposed to be doing. And maybe I need to make another video on this just to specifically talk about that, because it's sort of just something that you feel more than something that you know. The other things I do to make me feel joy is to set aside me time. I think setting aside me time and investing time in myself is absolutely important. I don't do it very long because I don't have the luxury of too much time. But when I do have time, I try to invest some time in myself, because that 10 minutes or 5 minutes of me either journaling, sitting in silence, doing some self-care, thinking about things, analyzing myself, doing the inner work, that's going to make me a better person, and it's going to make me a more efficient person, and it is going to make me a more grateful person. And in having that grateful feeling in my heart is where I will find the joy. But if I don't do the inner work and I don't invest in myself, then I'm not going to find that inner joy, or it's going to be harder for me to find that inner joy. And I try to stay as disciplined and as consistent as I can. It's very difficult, of course, to stay consistent and disciplined, especially when you're a working mom and you've got a ton of things that's on your plate. But consistency and discipline is not doing the exact same thing every single day. There's going to be days that it's whoa and it doesn't work out and your schedule is a bit crazy. But it's about doing it more often than not and trying to keep it as consistently disciplined as possible, so that when you look back, you're like, oh, okay, most of the time I was doing my routine and I was disciplined and I was doing this focused gratitude and I was feeling joy most of the time. But if you find that your schedule is haphazard and there is no discipline and it's very erratic, you will find that there's more moments where you might not have felt joy. And that's the trick, that I think in anything really, it has to do with discipline and it has to do with the consistency of it. And I think more and more as I get older, I realize that it is all about that, the consistency and the discipline and the being grateful and the being present. And that's what it means to have a quality of life, right? I also wish I started this much younger, but in the words of Maya Angelou, when you know better, you do better. Chapter 4, what not to do while healing. So I thought it was necessary to also talk about how substance abuse or any form of self-abuse can be a numbing factor, especially when you're going through the most in life. And sometimes people don't necessarily go into drugs or alcohol. They may have other forms of self-abuse that they do that's become their escape from reality because they're going through so much in life. When you submit to any form of self-abuse or substance abuse or erratic behavior, it pulls the joy away from you, and it actually gives you more anxiety than anything else. It actually feeds a dark side of your being that you don't want to feed. We're all walking around with the good wolf and the bad wolf on either side of our shoulders, and it's the one that we feed that grows, right? And I find that when we are going through the most at life, we can start doing too much of the things that are not good for us. My abuse to myself was copious amounts of TV, copious amounts of social media, and just not even getting up to do anything, just sitting in one spot the entire day and watching the screen. And I didn't realize how much damage that can do to me, because it starts making me feel even more depressed. I don't know how to come out of the rut, and I don't know how to start feeling better again. And that was me abusing myself. When I sit and I consume so much of nonsense that's not feeding my soul or growing me in any way and just makes me feel more depressed, that's abuse. That's abusing myself. That's making me feel worse than I am. And I don't find gratitude in that. There's darkness. I don't have a good sleep. My behavior is different. I am not disciplined. I'm not energized. I'm not moving with the right vibrational energy. And it doesn't feel great. And it's hard to pull yourself out of that rut the more you do it. What I also realized is that when you're trying to numb it, it's just for a moment. It doesn't solve what you're actually needing to solve. And facing life and being brave and saying to yourself, I'm going through this. I acknowledge that I'm going through this. It is making me feel shitty. I am feeling terrible about it. I don't know what to do. I am lost. But despite all of those things that I'm going through, what are the things that are good right now? And let me just focus on that right now. And having the faith in the higher power, in something that is way bigger than you are to fight your battle for you, is what we call surrender. And that's what we need to find the joy when we're healing. In addition to substance abuse or self-abuse, is gossiping. When you gossip about other people, it can only bring bad vibrational energy. And we all do it. We are all human, and we've all been in instances where we may have said something about someone to someone. And I think there's a fine line between like really saying, oh, you know what she did, and talking about people, which is gossiping, and then just having a vent session and letting it go. So if it is a vent session, then have your vent session, but let it be for 5 minutes and be done with it. And don't harp on it, and don't spread any news to everybody. Don't talk about it all the time, and find a way to remedy it. But if you're harping on it and you keep being in this negative circle, one, you're creating bad karma for yourself. Two, you're just putting yourself in a space where you are not going to feel joy. And three, it's not quality of life. You want to live a life that is fuller, that is of more quality, that is more peaceful and joyous, and just with a high vibrational rate. When you gossip and scandal and backbite and feel jealousy, that just takes you 10 steps backwards, and it only brings you misery, and it only brings you darkness, and it doesn't make you feel good within your soul. You know, I watched something recently which said, if your enemy gives you a slap, turn the other cheek and let the enemy slap the other cheek. And what that really means to me, how I understand it, is that it doesn't matter what someone thinks of you, does to you. What matters is that you're a good person, and that you are flowing in the energy that is full of goodness and joy and happiness. And it's really hard to do that, especially when people hurt you, especially when people are close to you. But what I've learned, or maybe what I'm learning, is that life is so much bigger than worrying about how people perceive you or how they behave towards you. Life is more about how you see the world. And it is difficult to see like goodness in every single person. But what we can do as humans is try, right? We can try to find the good things in other people, because there's goodness in everyone. Every single human being on this earth has something good to offer. We are just inclined to look at the bad things, especially when they've hurt us, especially when they've did wrong by us. Or, you know, sometimes it's people have done very serious things to you, and it's understandable that you would want to feel a certain type of way towards them. But forgiveness is not about you having that person in your life anymore. It's about you moving forward and not worrying about the consequences of people's actions, but just focusing on yourself and your own joy and the things that are working for you, and just moving with that. And there is happiness in that. I think it's very difficult to do, and I'm learning how to navigate this way of thinking. But I do know that it's very liberating, and it's a nice feeling, and it's a very joyous feeling. And that's what you want. You want to feel more joy in spite of everything that you're going through, right? So no, you don't have to be fully healed to experience joy. Joy is about experiencing the moments as they happen, to be present in every moment, to show more gratitude or to be grateful, to focus on your blessings and the things that are going right for you. That's how you can feel more joyous. Stay away from self abuse, substance abuse, darkness, gossiping, backbiting, revenge, all the things that have darkness. Stay away from that, because that will only bring you more pain, more anxiety, and will take away your peace. All you have to do is open up your heart to joy, and it will find you. Practice being a joyful person every day, and you will have a joyous life. Be consistent, be disciplined, and have faith in a higher power that serves you. Healing is extremely messy. It takes a lot of inner work, and it is a work in progress. And what we need to do as human beings is to try and be just a little better than we were yesterday. I thank you so much for choosing the front row. We'll do this again next week. Cheers. Quick, happy. In today's video, I'm going to show. Okay, where were